Hello, YouTube. Hope you're doing well out there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. However you consume your YouTube Pick 6 content, go ahead and smash that like button and feel free to hit the alert button as well. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick 6 Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brent and I'm your host. It is Friday, April 22nd. Listen to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, not only would you get to see me do a bizarre, cold YouTube open that feels like super unnatural, almost as unnatural as doing a break and then like just sitting there silently for a few seconds. But you would, if you're watching on YouTube, it's Thursday, April 21st, and we are going to do some offensive prospect breakdown, the non-quarterback version. We have a quarterback show in the feed, also a defensive prospect breakdown in the feed as well. Joining me to talk offensive prospects, Ryan Wilson and the great Emery Hunt. What's up, fellas?
So it's just me, but Emery's great all of a sudden. Is that what we're doing?
You're here all the time. I'm not going to give you a superlative.
Fair enough.
Then I have to call you.
By the way, Emery Hunt
every day.
Emery Hunt is if Brenson works less than anyone at CBS, Emery works more than anyone at CBS.
I'm with that.
Okay, you agree.
What's up, Emery? How are you doing, man?
What's up, Will? How you doing?
I love
Ryan, good to see you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Emery at F Ball Game Plan on Twitter, and obviously is it? I know the website, but I forget the actual URL. So what's the website? People.
It's footballgameplan.com.
Yeah, Emery always
right now it's footballgameplan.com/2022 draft guide.
Yes, Emery has a great draft guide that you should go check out on his website.
1,000+ prospects, which you might think on the surface sounds crazy, but here's the thing: Emery, like I said, is working so hard. So in addition to the NFL, he's doing the USFL now. He's doing Canadian Football League. Some of these guys can end up in the Arena League, Emery, as well.
Yeah, some of these. That's the thing, and we're dealing with two draft classes essentially. So you have a bunch of prospects that's going to end up in one of the many different football leagues. So you're absolutely right.
I'm like concerned that my mic is picking up.
No, we hear you. Trust me.
Something's going on. It's bugging me. I had to take everything down and this everything back up, and it's just.
It's fine. If I start celebrating, that means I can't hear you. So until you start seeing me cheer wildly,
Everything's very loud in my ear too. I should point out. Sometimes
that's us being on the podcast with you. That's right. So
yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, yeah. See, Emery, this is what happens when we get into late April. Once we get past April 15th, and it's not even like a tax day thing, it's just halfway to April. Wilson has had enough. And he's tired of the draft, and he's tired of working, and he's tired of answering the same questions about the same prospects and doing these mock drafts of Pete every Tuesday. And you know who he takes it out on? Me. He takes it out on me because
Michael Douglas falling down.
One, I'm an easy target. Two, I won't push back on it. I'll just like, whatever, man, get out what you need to get out. And then three, he does have to see me like 3 times a week, which would drive me.
It's an old married couple situation. Like, yeah, it's not worth the fight. I'll see you at dinner.
That's right.
Yeah, you guys are cohabitating. You know what I'm saying?
We have been cohabitating.
You have no idea.
Longer than my actual marriage.
Yeah.
And I've been married for 10 years. Anyway.
Jesus hates us.
Let's start with the wide receivers. I think this is a fascinating wide receiver class in terms of. Actually, you know what? Before we get to the wide receivers, Emery, I do want to ask Emery one question.
Yeah.
Who do you have? Because who do you have going first and second overall? Who do you think happens if you had to put it? Because we're a week out from the draft right now. Who would you have going first and second overall to the Jaguars and Lions, respectively, as of right now?
If it was my choice, or who
you can do both if you want.
Who I think will go will probably end up being Iquanu, and then I also look at Kayvon Thibodeau.
Okay,
second.
That's you making the pick. You're the GM.
And
that's what I think will happen.
So you're saying you think the Jaguars will take Ike Iquanu,
which I love,
right?
Yeah, that would be spicy. Just given how the sort of the rumor mill has played out, and then you also think that the Lions will pass on Aiden Hutchinson for Kayvon Thibodeau,
because I think Thibodeau is a better player than Hutchinson. I think Hutchinson is a decent player, more like a
decent. He called him decent.
Decent in terms of he's like a 15 to 20 type first round pick, not a top 2. Thibodeau.
You didn't tell him that in the combine. I'll be sure to point that out.
I said, listen, man, I thought he was better than Quiddy Pay. And he was Quiddy Pay's version to Ajabo. I think he's better than Ajabo. I just feel like Aiden Hutchinson is a solid player, But if I were picking the first 2 picks, it would go Thibodeau number 1 because I want to see the Thibodeau Josh Allen combination. And because the cat's out the bag now, and Detroit, was trying to play both ends of the of the sticks. They can't wait to 32 to get Malik Willis. So you kind of have to pull a trigger right now.
Dang.
Taking number 2.
Oh, interesting. That's spicy. I again, this is the offensive prospect discussion, so I don't want to get too far down the road, but I think that it's so I said it yesterday on the podcast. I have a pretty good. I mean, like, I'm not trying to like report this. I'm just because I don't want to see like report : this is happening and then it gets
once you say it is out there. So
I know that's the concern. But it occurred to me during yesterday's pod that I'd been like, using this information in like group chats, but I hadn't actually said it on my football podcast in which we talk about the draft.
Hey, just say if you don't want to be official, say you have a feeling.
I have a really, really, really strong feeling.
What is it?
That Trayvon Walker is the number 1 overall pick.
Man, I just don't like it.
I don't like it either, and I don't see it. But
I'm not disparaging Trayvon Walker, but Emory, if you're being honest, I don't know where you are on Trayvon Walker, but if you're being honest, you talk about production, it wasn't there. Now, I get the traits conversation, I get the projection conversation, but that feels like more of an Aiden Hutchinson situation as you explain it. That's someone you take after pick 10. If you're trying to see how this thing works out, pick 1. And here's the other thing, and I've said this to Prince on the podcast before. The connection with Trayvon Walker for Trent Baalke is that he took Aldon Smith back in the day because of the traits. And Aldon Smith was unstoppable as a part-time pass rusher his rookie season, and then the off-field stuff derailed him. But he also, Trent Baalke, passed on J.J. Watt and Cam Jordan. Now, I get the Aldon Smith part of it, but you got to finish the sentence, and I think you would rather have J.J. Watt or Cam Jordan long-term, given how things turned out. What do you think?
And the 2 Hall of Famers and the guy who got,
And then you put the semicolon after the sentence and continue on by saying, oh, by the way, Aldon Smith was more productive in college than was Trayvon Walker. So you have to continue to add on to that. I find the top of the draft fascinating, right?
Sure.
Because we kind of always talked about what we expect is going to happen, but I feel like we're letting 2 teams slide and skate. Like if you're Houston, who says you go into the season with Davis Mills? If you're the Giants, you just came from Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll came from Buffalo. Who said you want to go in the season with Daniel Jones? Like, and Malik Willis sitting right there. Like, so we can't let Houston and also the Giants just kind of skate past and say, oh yeah, they'll punt to next year. Next year's mystery box of quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's right.
When you know what I'm saying? So I feel like we about to get shocked in the first 3 picks in this draft, whether it's Trayvon Walker going number 1 or, Kenny Pickett going 6. Like, I feel like we are going to be all having a cake mouth by pick 4 come draft night.
Yeah, I think there's a decent chance that this draft, because we got sort of spoiled by last year's draft where, everyone, not everyone, but like 75% of the mocks got the top 10 pretty close to right.
Well, the issue was number 3, San Fran and Mac Jones.
Right. Did you have Mac Jones or did you have Trey Lance? And then maybe
all 5 quarterbacks won the first round. That wasn't a surprise.
Right. But maybe you didn't have Waddle going to the Dolphins. Maybe some, but in general, you had Pitts, Waddle, and Chase there in the top 10 by the time you did your final mock.
Absolutely.
And Sewell was there. So, it was like easy to do it. And there's a decent chance, as Emory's sort of pointing out, I think that like Malik Willis could just be this nuclear bomb that blows up everybody's mocks if the Giants or the Falcons or the Seahawks or the Panthers or, the Lions at 2 end up taking him. The reason I asked you that and you answered it perfectly though is the Thibodeau thing. It's Thibodeau. I don't know why I
love that you say Thibodeau.
Yeah, and it's
he told Hassel that he answers to both.
That's right. The Thibodeau thing, I think, is really interesting because guilty as charged. Wilson, I know you're guilty. I feel like Emory maybe has sort of stood pat and like, no, I'm not moving him down.
No, Emory doesn't care about that off-field stuff.
The
brand, he ain't care about the brand stuff.
People are like, he cares about his brand too much. He's got an ego. Oh my God, are you telling me that a professional athlete wants to brand themselves and has like an ego? Wow, shock me with your magical revelations. Like all these dudes want to brand themselves, especially in 2022, and all these dudes have huge egos. And it does seem like sort of this undercurrent is starting to rebuild back up where Thibodeau's not getting past 4. Like he's just not getting past 4. Is there any chance he goes 1?
I think so, man. And
it's 25 to 1 to go 1.
Because think about this. I've said this a lot. It's prospect fatigue. And this every year, last year when someone went, whoever was going to get the first round pick, wow, they get the rights to take Kayvon Thibodeau. The next thing you know, well, we tired of talking about Kayvon Thibodeau. We saw this in the QB draft with Deshaun Watson. Like, oh man, they're going to get Deshaun Watson number 1. The next thing you know, Myles Garrett pops up, and then all of a sudden Trubisky is better than both Watson and Patrick Mahomes. It's just prospect fatigue. I think people really just get bored talking about the same guys. And so they find other guys. Just like last year, it was like, oh man, we're gonna see Spencer Rattler and DJ Uiagalelei be the top quarterbacks in the class, and how that worked out by October. Like,
not
what
great.
are we doing? So I feel like cooler heads will prevail and talent will trump everything. There's a joke I want to make about the Kayvon Thibodeau thing, but I gotta get it off air because we all trying to, keep our jobs here. But
okay. I mean,
I want to see what happens. Go ahead.
Yeah.
He said, I want to see what happens.
I mean, there's a decent chance that whatever the joke is will be like the third least offensive thing that ends up
right.
Right.
Because I watch you guys religiously, and you're absolutely right. So, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna get on the phone, go on with the FCC after this one. But I feel like logical heads will prevail and be like, man, just take the best player, and that's Kayvon Thibodeau, in my opinion.
Okay, I think that's interesting, and I was talking to someone, actually Chris Burke for The Athletic, who our old buddy from Fan House, Wilson, and we just sort of I was curious. I was like, do you think that the Lions could take Thibodeau over Hutchinson if they're both there at 2? Because there's this narrative that they can't go Thibodeau at 2 because Hutchinson is from Michigan is absolutely the stupidest thing on the planet. Like, who what you gotta sell more tickets because you got a pass rusher from Michigan? Like, get out of here. So I tend to think those two narratives have pushed us towards Hutch going above Thibodeau, but when it's time to bleep or get off the pot, it may very well be Thibodeau going 2. You can bet, I think at PointsBet maybe, because I was on with the NBC folks, as I mentioned. At PointsBet, you can get Walker 1, Thibodeau 2 at 14 to 1 as an exact.
Boy, you like that?
I kind of like that. Anyway, I ate up 10 minutes of time. That was an entertaining and productive conversation, but we do need to get to the offensive prospects lest we end up sitting here until 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Nada's not down for that, so let's go.
No, nobody's down for that. Emery's like, look, it's 2 o'clock. All right, you got my allotted time. I'm out of here. Ryan, your official rankings at the wide receiver position. You start
before you read them. Let's ask both you and Emery quickly.
Okay.
I think 5.5 is the over under right now at Caesars for wide receivers in round 1. Is that right, Brenson?
The over under yes, it is. So we were talking about this the other day. I
want to get both your guesses on how many wide receivers are going.
Well, I told you this. I was about to bet on my local site over 5.5 receivers minus 220.
Yeah.
And I went and did a radio hit, and when I came back to the site after doing the hit, it was like some selections have changed. It moved from minus 220 to minus 286. So I didn't take it. It's over under 5.5, heavily juiced to the over. There's been chatter about what do you think, Emery? Over or under 5? We're talking like minus 300. You got like $300 to win 100.
Yeah, that's bizarre that they got juice, because I feel like
I'm with you.
Once we see where, let's say, a Jarvis Landry signs, right? That kind of takes one option for a team that was probably going to dip at wide receiver in the first round. I'm still liable to go over because of teams that have multiple first round picks that need receivers. Jets, Chiefs, Packers, Saints, Eagles. I feel like there's enough opportunity there, especially if we get that run early. Teams going to be like, man, we got to get this receiver before the second round hits. And I feel like who picks at the top of the second round? Because that also could be a factor as well, where some team may jump up thinking that this team may be about to take a wide receiver at the top of round 2. I better get ahead of them. So I feel like we're going to go over.
Yeah.
I'm close. Like, I think it's going to 6 feels right. And I think one of those guys, I don't have 6 guys going as first round grades on the wide receivers, but that doesn't mean teams don't. And then, Emery, you painted a picture as to why there might be some teams eager to get wide receivers, either because of need or because of concerns about teams behind them.
And it's, people are like, oh, it's a deep wide receiver class. You can wait. Yeah, but like the top of the wide receiver class, while it might not have a Jamar Chase or maybe even a Jalen Waddle, it's still like a nice, it has a lot of nice upside. And if you're comparing it versus like a, middling defensive prospect later in the first round, I think you're going to go wide receiver. Plus, Chiefs and Packers both clearly having traded away those, Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams respectively with 4 picks in the last 10 or so, probably targets there for wide receiver. Anywho, Wilson, your rankings. Number 1, Garrett Wilson. Number 2, Drake London. Number 3, Jameson Williams. 4, Treylon Burks. And 5, Chris Olave. 5 very nice prospects. Certainly, I think all basically locked into going in the first round. Could you tell me why Jameson Williams is not number 1? Because I think you're foolish for not having him 1.
Oh, just because his knee has been recently reconstructed, and that's it. Like if he were healthy, he'd be number 1.
Interesting.
And then, you just move everyone down one spot between Garrett and Drake. But, Jameson Williams is electric. 1-year productivity, I don't care. I mean, he left Ohio State to play, which is always funny to say. You have to go to Alabama to get playing time. But he was just destroying SEC cornerbacks week in and week out. And the only thing that could stop him is the freaking turf. And I wish they quit playing football games on turf because these kids are getting hurt for reasons that I don't even understand. I mean, we talk about the Panthers at number 6 having the 6th overall pick, and David Tepper. David Tepper's literally the richest person in the NFL. Like, he's the richest owner. He has tens of billions of dollars, and he's putting turf in the stadium. How's that protecting your investment? That's just my little rant that I go on when I talk about turf. But Garrett Wilson to me reminds me of Odell Beckham at his best. Just the athleticism and the twitchiness and the ability to get off the line of scrimmage and how you can't cover him in short areas. His ability to go up to get the ball. I love him. And it's funny because we asked him at the combine who was faster, him or Olave, and he said Olave's faster. Garrett Wilson ended up timing faster. He plays faster. Olave isn't quite as strong or as explosive as Garrett Wilson. He's probably a better route runner. Garrett Wilson had some focus drops, but I'm not concerned about those. I think he'll be fine. Drake London at 2, 6'4", 219. Didn't run pro day or combine because of that foot injury late in the season, that ended the season early. He's probably a 4 or 5 guy. You watch him play, he plays plenty faster than me. I know folks, as Emery's talked about the fatigue this time of year, looking for reasons to pick holes in games. I had a scout tell me once early on, he's like, look, man, there doesn't have to be something wrong with the player. Drake London is good. He's running by dudes. And when he's not running by dudes, he's high pointing the ball. He played on the USC basketball team a little bit. His senior year of high school, he averaged 29 points a game and 12 rebounds. That dude can play. He can play above the rim, so to speak. So he's number 2. Mentioned Jameson Williams, Treylon Burks. Prescott doesn't like Jalen Burks because he plays slow. Every time he says that, we're watching a clip of him running by somebody, an SEC cornerback. He goes, yeah, I know, but he plays slow. Teams are worried he's going to get fat. No one's worried about him getting fat. He ran a 4.55. He plays faster than that. Anquan Boldin ran a 4.7. Turns out he was pretty good too. He reminds me of Anquan. He reminds me of Deebo Samuel. Reminds me of Juju Smith-Schuster. If I'm the Steelers at 20 and some other guys are gone that you may be targeting, I'm taking Treylon Burks, and I think it's easy. Then Chris Olave, he feels like he could end up somewhere like, I may not be as high on him as other people, Emery. I'm interested to hear what you think, but I feel like he ends up somewhere like Green Bay or maybe even Kansas City. I mentioned earlier, he's not that strong, so he can get knocked off his routes. Great hands, runs great routes, and I feel like in a system, either in Green Bay or Kansas City, he'll flourish immediately, and he could be one of the first or second wide receivers that those teams take with those 2 draft picks in the first round, because they need to find some wide receivers after they lost Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Emery, just curious your thoughts on Wilson's rankings, what you might differ on, and if there's somebody that would slide into your top 5 that's not there on his.
It's a solid list. I mean, I break the receiver position down by split in, Z receiver, slot receiver, big inside receiver, and I see my number 1 split, Drake London, number 1, number 2 split in Chris Olave. Wilson's my number 1 inside. And Burks, I feel like he's like my 5th, I believe, slot receiver. Jameson Williams is my number 1 slot receiver. And I feel like, you can't go wrong with this, no matter how you rank him. I would probably have it London, Williams, Olave, then Wilson, or Burks, then Wilson. I feel like Wilson is good. I think Wilson is someone that doesn't play up to his time speed. That's why we all thought Olave was faster. That's why we were shocked that Wilson ran faster. But Wilson is someone that has, really good hands. Like Ryan said, I'm not worried about the focus drops or nothing like that. And London, that was like sometimes you have these prospects that you watch, you're like, all right, I've seen enough. Like 25 plays. Why am I wasting my time? This dude's clearly good. Like, there's no let me not try to find the weakness, right? So this is a strong list. So that's why I said those 5 are going in the first round. And I can make a case for my number 1 Z receiver, which is Christian Watson, also going in the first round, which puts us at 6,
Yeah. And then you got a couple other guys on the back end who could slip in for sure. Wilson, when you look at you pick, and typically speaking, when we've been doing this the last 2 days, it's the number 1 guy on your list, but it's like, who's your guy? Who you pounded the table for? And then, same question for you, Emory.
Oh, I'm going with Garrett Wilson. I love Garrett Wilson. I actually think he played faster than Olave. I know Emory thought he didn't, but that's why we're having these conversations. Different people see different things. I think he's a guy that comes in right away and contributes. Like, he's a guy I feel like Zach Wilson needs. Like, they have some dudes that haven't quite worked out there, and maybe those guys grow into those roles in New York. But I think Garrett Wilson is the guy that comes in. You have 2 first-round picks. If you get an offensive tackle, that's what you want at 4, and then at 10, Garrett Wilson's there, and he may not be. That's great news. Now, look, if you send him to the Falcons, which makes sense as well, he probably won't be as good. Marcus Mariota hasn't started a game since 2019, and you got one other player, Kyle Pitts, and that's it. So
I don't know, man. I mean, Zach Wilson.
I think the Jets are better than the Falcons, though. Don't you?
As a team, probably. I'm just saying, like, you might be getting more catchable balls from Marcus Mariota than from Zach Wilson over the course of a year.
I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Marcus Mariota. I loved him last year. I thought he was going to send Derek Carr to the bench and they can take him to the playoffs. Maybe that's 2 years ago. That didn't quite work out. But yeah, I love Garrett Wilson. I think he's a top 15 pick all day long. Another place that makes a lot of sense is Washington. Again, the quarterback there, we'll see how Carson Wentz works out, but Terry McLaurin wants to get paid, understandably. So even if he plays next year and then leaves, you have something behind him. You have De'Ami Brown, who has a chance in year 2 to grow into that role. Curtis Samuel, who didn't do quite what they wanted him to do last year. Maybe this year he can stay healthy. So that's one more weapon for Carson Wentz, who probably needs about 15 or 20 weapons out there to make him look anything close to what he looked like at Philadelphia.
Yeah, I probably would pound the table for Christian Watson because I feel like these, one thing that I know about these small college players, they know people want them to fail. And so it's tough. It's like being the first, kid to go to college out your family. You have to finish, right? Because you are representing the family and all that stuff like that comes with it. These dudes feel like they're representing the small college brand. They have to star from day one. And with his skill set, his speed, his athleticism, his playmaking ability, his ability to affect the game on special teams, I feel like that's someone that you can trust that can step in and play right away, as opposed to, worrying about whether or not he had some drops or, think about he stepped up at the Senior Bowl on the worst day possible and had the best day out there when everyone else was letting the ball hit him in the mouth. He's out there catching with his hands and everything. And so, I could trust that guy. Played in a lot of big games, North Dakota State. Seems to rise to the occasion. I feel like he fits in Green Bay. They love long, slim, fast wide receivers. I can see that being their type. So I feel like he's going to step in and be one of these day one contributors, despite coming from a smaller school.
Yeah, no, I love Christian Watson. I've typically had him going second round. But that Green Bay thing is a good point, and that's a good comparison. And we know he can play in cold weather because he was at North Dakota State. So how many guys you think going in the first round at wide receiver, Emory? 6, or you think there's possibly 7?
I think we could possibly see 7, man.
Who's number 7? Is Jahan or someone else?
I think it's Jahan Dotson, someone like that. Someone that you have to be able to be a speed demon, number 1. I feel like that could be the guy because I feel like we stopped talking about him. And so I don't know why we just stopped talking about Dotson. Feel like he just fell out of favor and everything has been focused on Jameson Williams.
Yeah, Williams is getting all the heat like the last
all
week.
of it.
I mean, all of it. Like, I know dudes who have bet him that, like, I know guys who in the old group chat who will stand to like make a comma plus if Jameson Williams goes top 6. I mean, like that's
oh boy, that's rich.
Well, it's also like I think that we talked about the top half of this draft is so hard to figure out and could go so many different ways, and there are so many teams in the top half of the draft with multiple picks that we sort of ignored the second half of the first round is kind of being not talked about as much because there's no there's no clear set on how the top half is going to go.
Mm-mm.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. We probably could see again. We're in for a shock.
Yeah.
We may see Datton go ahead of one of these guys.
Yeah.
You know that Ryan listed.
I mean, we've seen that the last few years, Emery, where it's like, Ruggs goes ahead of CeeDee Lamb, Rager goes ahead of of Justin Jefferson. I mean, it's Metcalf, N'Keal Harry is the second wide receiver off after Marquise Brown. It happens all the time. If there's a guy out there, Wilson, that you are concerned about, like we'll call him the buyer beware wide receiver. Who would you go with?
I'm reading the rundown that Debo said. Ike Ekwonu's name is on.
Yeah, I know. I changed it in the rundown because I was worried I would actually say. So Ike Ekwonu is your buyer beware offensive lineman, huh, Wilson?
I'm looking at the email. So what does it say on the rundown?
I got angry. I thought I was being trolled. And I was like, wait, I bet that's his actual offensive lineman.
So who
You had Treylon Burks.
Okay, thank you. Good Lord.
I know that because Treylon Burks was your buyer beware offensive lineman, and I just switched them.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
So I was like, what are we talking about here? Who did this? Debo's out partying and he fills in the rundown.
I mean, that's
morning.
probably like one of the 3 mistakes Debo will make all month.
I give Debo a hard time when he's not.
I mean, the biggest mistake he made was taking the job. But anyway,
that is mistake number 1. All right, Treylon Burks. So I talked about it a little bit earlier. And Pritzker brings this up every time it comes up when we do HQ about how some teams he talks to are worried that Treylon Burks is going to balloon up to 350 or whatever. I don't know where that sort of came from.
Oh, sorry, 350 pounds.
I'm exaggerating.
Oh, okay, I was like, does he weigh like 295?
No, he's 220. He's 6'2", 220. But gain weight. Prisco didn't say 350. That's me exaggerating the point. And Prisco doesn't think he plays as fast as I think he plays. He ran the 4.55. Again, I don't care. And the thing is, we were doing yesterday. We did a mock draft show on Wednesday on HQ, and I had the Steelers taking Treylon Burks, which is a fit that I like. And Prisco said, because I compared him to Juju Smith-Schuster, which I do, he said, Juju's slow. I said, when did Juju become slow? Like, Juju is not slow. He suffered a shoulder injury, and he couldn't play, and he came back and toughed it out when no one thought he was going to be there. And I guarantee you, by the way, playing with Patrick Mahomes are going to improve Juju Smith-Schuster's numbers compared to playing with 85-year-old Ben Roethlisberger, who looks like he's sitting in a rocking chair back there. So anyway, the concerns with Treylon Burks is the sort of initial quickness off the ball, but you can move him anywhere. The dude played in the backfield. He ran in and rounds all day long. He's a big part of their screen game. And then we saw him get the ball on short passes and take them a long way. So is he a polished route runner? Not yet, but he can get better. So that's a concern. And look, you can have legit concerns about speed and consistently separating, because that was the concern about N'Keal Harry. Treylon Burks is a million times better than N'Keal Harry coming out of Arizona State. N'Keal Harry was a bowling ball, but he wasn't even close to being as good as Laviska Shenault, who had a similar type way he played the game. So I just think the Patriots made a mistake there. And instead of painting Treylon Burks with that brush, understand what he does well and utilize those things. But those are some of the concerns you hear. And I don't think he's as polished a route runner as some of these other guys, but I still love him as a first-round pick.
Yeah, I feel like Burks is I think he's tailor-made for Tennessee. I feel like Tennessee loves.
Yeah, he's A.J. Brown, but a little slower.
Exactly. These big, thick wide receivers. I just don't understand the slight for Burks. Every wide receiver can't be Randy Moss or Wes Welker. There's types. There's a wider
Randy Moss and Wes Welker. I mean, they're
you got to be like. So I work with somebody like that. You need someone to take pressure off, and he's someone that has been dynamic with the ball in his hand. So I agree.
All right. Anybody? Do you have anyway? All right, let's move on to the next position. I just looked at the clock. Actually, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll move on to the next position, and maybe Ike Ekwonu will get dragged.
Nice.
I will drag Wilson.
This is it. We're back.
Come on, be my baby tonight.
Julie has a controversial history with many of us.
I'm not trying to mess with that lady.
My sexuality made you feel uncomfortable.
That door is open and I can leave.
I'm either with you 100% or I'm not with you at all.
You didn't apologize.
Why did I come back here?
The Real World Homecoming, New Orleans. New season now streaming exclusively on Paramount+.
So the wide receivers getting plenty. Oh, you know what? I actually skipped over sleepers and small school standouts. I'm sorry. Do you want to cover those, Wilson?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll do them real quick. Sleeper for me is Danny Gray, and I was talking to Emery about that before we started the podcast. 4.33 guy to SMU. He plays to that speed, 5'11". The funny thing is, we had 187 at the combine, 197 at his pro day. He was on the Wilson diet there for a week and a half between those two events. But that dude plays fast, and sometimes you see guys run fast, and you don't see it show up on tape when you watch him. He plays fast, and even though he's 5'11", he is really good at contested catches. He does it consistently, and he also gets the ball within 5, 6, 7, 8 yards of the line of scrimmage, and he'll take it to the house. And I think with that speed, he feels like a day 2 guy all day long that no one's talking about because, as you know, we've sort of alluded to, the focus has been on the top 2 or 3 wide receivers because, you know, that's sort of what we do in the media. In terms of small school guy, Nicholls State, Dejon Dixon. I know that Emery probably likes him, even though I haven't even asked Emery about him. He's a long dude. Level of competition might be a concern, but his best game came against what do you got on that sweatshirt there, Emery?
Yeah, you know, listen, man, America's team,
shots at ULL. What are you doing, man? You lost your mind?
That's who he had his best game against, and that's
bro, he lit us up, son.
That's the easiest way to find get a good evaluation of a prospect is when somebody lights up your team. like I'm not like if somebody
you remember
trust me, Stephon Diggs is going to be good, guys. I saw what he did against NC State. Like he's gonna be good. I watched him, you know.
Yeah, but he's a long guy. He ran 4.6 something. That's all right. I mean, he's a developmental guy. You're not going to draft him in the first round. You get him on day 3, have a plan for him, and put him to work. I think I like him as a small school standout.
All right, let's move to running back, where Emery has ranked his top 5, and to nobody's surprise, and I mean this in a complimentary way, your running back rankings do not in any way, shape, or form mirror the consensus that is out there, Emery. I definitely knew who your number 1 running back was and didn't Google him. I mean, that was your top 5 are Jashawn Corbin, Isaiah Spiller 2, Brees Hall 3, Kyron Williams 4, and Zamir White 5. No mention of Kenneth Walker. Give me the rundown of why you've got I think you're the first of all, Corbin isn't even bettable as the first wide receiver or first running back taken on my site. Like he's just field other. And then I think you're the only place I've seen where it didn't have Brees Hall ranked first overall. Kind of break that down for me.
Well, I feel like Corbin, when you watch him, he does everything that you want the running back to do at the position, and it ties it all together. Vision, footwork, elusiveness. Can you be your own blocker? Can you operate when things aren't as it is designed on the whiteboard? You know, when you look at some backs, it's like, okay, I know these guys are supposed to be blocked here. This is where the play is supposed to be. But sometimes you have to create outside of that. And those are the traits that he has that makes it special. Plus, he has the burst. He has the ability to catch the football. He does a lot of things really well. So for me, this is a evaluation on the talent. And wherever he goes, whenever he goes, I'm not worried about it because I know he's going to see the field and have an impact. And for Brees Hall and Isaiah Spiller, both guys have the same grade. In my opinion, I gave him an 80 grade. So what has Spiller ahead, Spiller's receiving skills is dynamic. You know, he's not your meets expectations type receiver as a running back where you're catching swings, screens, flares, and flats. No, you could send him down the field and he could be a legitimate threat in the passing game. He, won the Colorado game with a deep ball going down the sideline. He almost, was able to get these guys to come back against Arkansas by how he can catch the football and get upfield. So it's that passing, the receiving ability that has him ahead of Brees Hall, who is, I think, is a really talented runner, foundational back, starter back. Reminds me a lot of, Curtis Martin and how he runs in terms of what he does and how he runs in between the tackles. He has a great sense of timing of when the big play needs to be made. So I like both backs, and that's why they have the same grade, but, slightly higher because of the receiving ability. And Williams, it's funny, every year in the draft, we talk about can his running back pass pro? And all of a sudden this year, we don't care about how they could block because
it's weird.
This is the best blocker at the position in this class. And he also is someone that rips off long runs and chunks. So when you watch him run whatever he ran at the 40 or 4.7, it's shocking because, wow, he plays faster than that. If he ran 4.4, you'd be like, yeah, I can see that on tape. He was running past everybody. So I don't know why everybody's knocking him because of his speed, because clearly he has football speed. And Zamir White, love the kid, love the ability that he has overcome those 2 knee injuries. So I compared him from that sense and how he plays to Frank Gore. I feel like this dude is another type, a Frank Gore type that can be that guy at the next level.
I thought you were going to compare Zamir White to you because you're 2 knee injuries. That's why you put him on the list.
But he was like 75 times better than I was.
And that's
Wilson,
before he
you got
got
1 or 2
surgery.
knee injuries.
Wilson
wants to injure his knee a second time just so he can brag about having 2 knee injuries. Like,
I can't keep up with Emery. He's got me. But I
Please
was
don't.
Yeah, Emery and I were talking about this before the podcast. We both love Corbin. I just talked about Corbin in the HQ, and it's weird that no one's talking about him outside of me, Emery, and B-Mac because he's a Florida State guy.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, and I don't like to bring stuff around Prisco, but I told Emery this. That first game of the season, second game, whenever that was, and he had that 89-yard touchdown run, Kyle Hamilton is not even close to catching him. And the concerns about Kyle Hamilton are the speed. And look, I get it. It's not Kyle Hamilton's fault he scored. There are 10 other guys that didn't do their jobs there. But it just stands out because we've been talking about Kyle Hamilton for months. And after he ran that 4.7 at his pro day, people turned on him. Now, Emery, I showed you what Brees Hall said to me when I had him number 2, and you put him number 3. The only thing and I love you. I think you're exactly right about Kyron Williams. Like the blocking is what stands out to me, and he plays so much faster than whatever he ran at the combine there. The only question I have is where's my guy Ken Walker?
Walker is my 10th running back.
Wow.
Yeah. And here's the thing about Walker. And this is the comp I gave him is, the same comp and it's the same type of way I saw the guy that I compared him to. He reminds me a lot of Josh Jacobs, a solid, good back. But, I feel like his 4.3 speed is a product of Indianapolis's fast track.
Right.
I don't think he plays 4.38. There's no way possible he plays 4.38.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where he runs into contact. And I know people say, well, he had so many 50-yard runs. Here's a fun fact, guys. Speed has nothing to do with breaking off long runs. And when you break off long runs, a lot of times it's about your vision, your footwork, and your ability to hit a gap. Because up until I want to say maybe year 3 or 4 in the NFL, Reggie Bush didn't have a run longer than 50 yards. Who had one longer than 50 yards? Jerome Bettis. And you would say that Reggie Bush is faster than Jerome Bettis. Right?
We would acquiesce to that.
Exactly.
We'll give you that one.
Right. And so I'm like, listen, Walker is good, but I feel like he's, for me, and I remember being on this show last year saying why I liked Michael Carter more so than his teammate Javonte Williams. I feel the same way about Walker. I feel like Walker's a solid back, but give me the guys that have the great combination of vision, footwork, explosiveness more so than someone that's good. But I feel like there's guys that are just a little bit better.
Who is if you got to pick my guy, your guy? I like that you're not going top guy on the list, right? You're going with a different running back. Tyler Algier. Is it Algier? Algier. Okay, not a bad effort for me. That's probably a B+ effort for me relative to most other pronunciations. How come he's your guy you're pounding the table for?
This is the part I hate about the whole draft media complex. It's like if we go back to, let's say, late September, right? We all watching that late night BYU game after Alabama done spanked somebody, and we like, man, this, and you see takes on Twitter, right? Man, Algier is my RB1 in this class. And a lot of people start, RB1. We don't even talk about this dude no more, man. It's like, what the hell happened from then to now? Nothing. This dude is legit good. So I think he's of the caliber of your Javonte Williams and those type of guys. He kind of reminds me of James Robinson that plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So you're going to get a good, productive back that has special teams experience, plays on teams. So he's going to see the field. And he's going to get some carries and be productive. And it's somebody you're like, wow, mid-season, you're like, oh, he's a starter for them? Well, that makes sense. Well, yeah, he was doing it at BYU. So that's someone I think can step in right away because he plays special teams, but also he's a very good runner.
Yeah, he also caught 28 passes last year, which was career high for him. So, and I was telling Emery that he reminds me a little bit of James Conner because of that versatility. And he's built like James Conner. He's thick. And what was the USC game? He was just he ran away from guys. The UVA game, he ran away from guys. And as Emery just talked about, he's a 4.6 guy. That's what he ran. But there's a reason he's running through arm tackles and then creasing through holes because of his vision and his ability to move well laterally and then kick it in high gear. And by the way, when you're a 4.6 guy, and a 4.48 guy's trying to run you down, and you got a 20-yard head start, he ain't catching you. So it doesn't matter.
All right. What about a buyer beware guy for you, Emery?
Buyer beware would be Brian Robinson. I've seen a lot of, RB1 takes with Brian Robinson, or, first round takes with Brian Robinson. Listen, man, I get it. He played at Alabama. We see Alabama a lot. They play a lot of big games, and, people love to, have the fantasy of, the NFL films run where you're just crunching helmets and crunching shoulder pads. Bro, you got to make somebody miss. You got to make somebody miss. You got to be able to rip off long runs. You got to be a factor in the passing game. I see him more as a complimentary guy, as a 4-minute offense type guy, a closer type guy.
Yeah, just get downhill and drag some dudes for a couple of yards, right?
More Gus Edwards than J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
And there's no knock on Edwards or Robinson, but I feel like people are elevating him to expect him to be something that he wasn't. And there's a reason why every back that was at Bama was ahead of him before they exhausted all those options and went to Brian Robinson.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the sort of thing where, that's a fine complimentary piece to have in your backfield, but you can't use a first, obviously not first, but you don't really want to use a day 2 pick on a guy who's just going to plow ahead for, 3 yards at a time, right? I mean, I think that would be the concern. Well, the battering rams are always nice to have as well. Okay. Tight ends. Oh, sorry. God, I'm skipping it. You had a sleeper, Morgan Ellison.
Listen, the name may sound familiar to some because he was at Indiana before he had to leave, and he ended up at Southeastern Louisiana. The dude runs 4.6, low 4.6, high 4.5. He can catch the football in the backfield. Reminds me a lot of Chris Carson, and we just talked about Brian Robinson and Chris Carson, the same ilk, but maybe a better athlete. I feel like Ellison is of that same linear plane, so he's someone that can get in, play special teams, but will surprise folks with how explosive he is as a runner. And my small school guy is Quay Homes. He reminds me a lot of Arian Foster in the sense that he's a taller back. He returns kickoffs, so that tells you a lot about his functional speed. Slow guys don't return kickoffs; they return punts because they're more quicker. But if you have to have real speed to return kickoffs. And Quay Homes did that. He was a foundational back for East Tennessee State, 1,500 yards each and every year, went down to the Hula Bowl, had a really good week. So I think he's someone that will end up late day 3 or priority free agent, but one of those undrafted free agents that we talk about in training camp that just blow it out the water.
I dig it. Tight end is definitely not, you talk about stuff that's off the radar in this draft. Tight end isn't it? I mean, I feel like it's just not anywhere near the radar, just in terms of because there's not a Kyle Pitts out there, right? There's not an elite prospect that people are thinking about using a top 10 or top 15 pick on. Your top 5: Jake Ferguson, Greg Dulich, Cade Otton, Garrett Pierce, and James Mitchell. Break down your top 5, why you like those guys, and Wilson, if you love, hate, or want to drag Emery's tight end rankings, by all means, follow up on it.
Well, I feel like Ferguson is the same guy. Like, if you told me that was, a tight end 10 years ago at Wisconsin, I would be like, yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's exactly who it is. I remember him playing with Russell Wilson. All their tight ends are built, look, and play the same.
Yeah, great blocker, slow moving, good red zone target.
It's the same guy, and so he's perfect. He's a really good player. And he was just outstanding. I was surprised at Greg Dulcich's tape, because I kept saying, and I didn't want to jump to hyperbole, but after the second game, I'm like, all right, I'm not tripping. This dude is like George Kittle. He is a George.
Hold on
Kittle
now, wait a second. You think he can block?
I think he could block well enough. You don't have to be Orlando Pace. You just have to be able to get in the way for about 2 seconds, and then that's all you need.
Okay,
right?
he could do that.
Well, to be fair too, if you're coming out of Iowa as a tight end, I mean, even Noah Fant got some credit for blocking. He's not as good as Kittle, but he can block, right? I mean, if you're coming out of Iowa as a tight end, you have just spent so much time over the last 3 years blocking that you just kind of got better at it, just because that's just Ferentz ball. I mean, that's just how it is.
And I see Dulcich more as an H-back, so more of a move piece. So you could kind of help him out by not putting him on the line. My number one in line though is Cade Otton out of Washington. So I'm a big fan of him. I feel like he was criminally underutilized at Washington. I don't know why they just didn't throw him the football, but blocking, he's solid. Pierce was someone that I got introduced to at the East West Shrine Bowl, and I'm watching. I was like, man, who's this receiver? And then I look at the roster. I'm like, oh, that's a tight end from UAB. I remember him from week 0 when they were beating the brakes off Jacksonville State, and I thought that was a receiver because he wore 20. Then I interview him, and I'm like, man, this dude look like Travis Kelce. He runs like Kelce. He looks like Kelce. He's from Kansas City. I'm like, all right, bro. Like, y'all got to be related somewhere. But he was like, nah. I love his game, and that's who I want to be. He was out there baking those linebackers, those safeties. He's someone that's underrated. He's my number 1 flex guy. And James Mitchell's another one that's vastly underrated out of Virginia Tech that can really move. So you look at this class. I think this is a deep tight end class. But even though there's no Kyle Pitts, but there's a bunch of guys that's going to become matchup problems all throughout the game week because of what they can do running the football, running with the ball and running routes to get open. So I love the tight end class.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good starting on day 2. And
it's just sort of the same kind of theme as really the whole draft, right? Like there's not an elite player, but it's a nice deep class with some like there's just not this whole draft class just doesn't have the standout elite talent. And maybe this is a COVID thing where guys were you opt out, you don't like you can. I don't know. There's more guys in this draft, but not as many high end talents.
If you were elite, you came out last year.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what I was trying to get at, and you said it better than me.
The only names,
yeah, Wilson, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the Emory didn't mention my guy Trey McBride, who's my tight end 1. I love Trey McBride. Jeremy Ruckert reminds me a lot of Cade Naughton, that he was criminally underutilized at Ohio State. And then I'm surprised you didn't have Jelani Woods on here. He feels like an Emory Hunt type of guy. UVA, transfer, Oklahoma State wide receiver. Didn't play well over the second half of the season, but I found out he was injured. He turned his high ankle sprain against Wake. I think he's going to be a good football player as well.
Him and Nebraska's Austin Allen, both are legit oak trees. Like Allen is 6'8" and Woods is 6'7". And when you're that tall, you kind of lumber. I know he ran whatever he ran at the
or 6'1", I think.
Yeah, everybody ran fast at Indy. You know what I'm saying? So we got some questions about that track out there in Indy.
Come on.
But when we talk about him playing fast, I just feel like it's hard for those taller guys. They become one-dimensional. Hey, man, stand your big you-know-what out there and just go play jump ball out there. So he has to be a little bit better with his pad level. So does Austin Allen out of Nebraska. And McBride is like my number 5 H-back. This is a really good tight end group. I can't stress that enough. I like him more as an H-back as opposed to inline. I feel like his blocking is a bit inconsistent, and I don't want to waste time with him trying to fight through a defensive end. Just push him back a little bit as an H-back, put him on the move, get him out in the route where he can do damage.
All right.
Okay. I'm lost in my rundown. What am I supposed to, what name am I supposed to talk about?
Our guys?
Yeah, your guy. Yeah, sorry. I got Craig Calcuttara, who writes for covers baseball for like NBC Sports. I got confused by buyer beware. Anyway, your guy, who you pounded the table for?
Jalen Watermeyer, man. Listen, I know he ran a 9 in the 40-yard dash. I know that, right? I know he didn't. I know people love sharing his RAS. Is all red, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you watch Texas A&M play, the dude is open. He catches the football. Kind of reminds me of a former Texas A&M tight end, that we've seen all throughout the the NFL and has success in Bennett, right?
Oh yeah.
Kind of players like Bennett, and so I feel like that's the same thing. The only thing that worries me, and I was disappointed to see it when I watched him on film, I was like, bro, you got to have at least some pride in blocking, some. Like at some point, you got to get tired of getting your chest exposed, right? But in terms of running routes, getting open, that's why I didn't even bother putting him, as an inline tight end or even an H-back. I have him as a flex, which is a bigger wide receiver. So it's like, all right, just flex him out. Don't even ask him to block. Maybe, wall off a lighter, strong safety or something like that. But as far as catching the football and getting open over the middle of the field, that's what he does. And I think he's going to be successful at that. So I'm willing to ignore the bad 40, the all red RAS, ignore all that. I'm going to just gamble on the football talent that I watched on film.
And what about a buyer beware for you?
Grant Calcuttara, not because of his talent, not because he can get open. He's tremendous. I worry about the concussions. and he's had a bunch. Remember, he retired.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that.
Came back.
He played with Kyler.
Yeah, and so he retired from Oklahoma, sat out, and then came back to play at SMU. Did really well, but you always wonder in the back of your mind if he's one hit away from not playing again. And I don't want to see that. I don't be watching the game live and that happens. So I think he may go undrafted because of it.
I generally. Who was it that retired?
Borland.
Who's the other guy that retired recently?
Yeah, that's right. Chris Borland. That was about 5 or 6 years ago now.
The linebacker.
San Francisco.
No. I'm talking about there's somebody who retired in college and then came back and then was in the draft. I can't remember who it was.
I don't know who that was.
I generally have a policy where I don't draft anyone who retired from college football.
Right.
I'm not trying to make light of concussions or anything. It's just if somebody was willing to walk.
No, I'm laughing that you have draft policies. That's what I was laughing at.
Yeah. We don't have many policies around this household, Wilson.
But that's
we have a draft
top
policy where we don't draft anyone who retired. All right. Your sleeper, Isaiah Johnson-Mack, and your small school standout, Andrew Ogletree. Break down those two guys.
Yeah, Isaiah Johnson-Mack, the name may sound familiar to a lot of people that watch Pac-12 football because he was a wide receiver at Washington State. Then he transferred out of Washington State, ended up being a tight end. He went to a bunch of places. He left Washington State as a receiver, goes to Bowling Green, and plays linebacker, edge rusher, and was excellent. Then he transfers from there, goes to Saginaw Valley State, and ends up at tight end. And he was phenomenal at tight end. So he went down to the College Gridiron Showcase, and he was looking like a legit wide receiver running routes during one-on-ones against safeties and linebackers. So he's someone that definitely checks all the boxes medically. He's a core special teamer from day one because he also returned kicks as well. But to go from receiver, power 5 receiver, to group of 5 edge rusher, to D2 tight end prospect, that's someone you want to – he's going to find a spot on the 53, in my opinion. And Ogletree was someone that really stood out on film, but also stood out at the Hula Bowl. He was an MVP there. He had a touchdown or two, and someone is a taller guy, but he really covers a lot of ground when he runs routes. So I love the savvy he has for a taller guy being able to get in and out of his breaks. So someone that is trending in the right direction because of his postseason and checking all those boxes from All-Star game, testing well. So he's building good momentum going into the draft.
I dig it. All right, let's move to the offensive line. Wilson, your top 5. Ike Ekwonu, number 1. Evan Neal, number 2. Charles Cross, 3. Tyler Linderbaum, 4. And Kenyon Green, 5. I don't think that's a particularly shocking ranking, unless I'm forgetting. I'll look and figure out if I'm forgetting something obvious, but sort of give us the rundown there on your top 5, mostly focusing on
Ike. Yeah. So I've talked Ike, Evan, and Charles Cross to death. So
yeah, no, you don't have to spend a ton. I mean, I think this draft is weird because it's defensive line and offensive line up top, and that makes it less appealing from a public standpoint. But
yeah,
we all still have to talk about it, which means it's nonstop chatter about Ike, Neal, Thibodeau, Hutch, and who else.
And I like Ike. I like Evan. I like Charles Cross. I like all those guys, and I think they all deserve to be top 6 picks. And I think it'll play that way. We'll find out. But Tyler Linderbaum, he's a guy that had going in top 15, top 10 of these mock drafts that I do every week. Even as recently as January, I think he's that good. Prisco said he talked to a team that has him graded as the best center they've graded in the last 20 years.
Whoa.
But here's the thing about taking a center that high, and I have them going usually to the Cowboys at 24, or maybe even the Bengals at 31. Going back 20 years, I think, maybe since 2010. So going back to 2010. Only 3 centers have been drafted as high as 18. One is your dude, Garrett Bradbury. The other one is Marquise Pouncey, and the other is Ryan Kelly. And 2 of those 3 guys are probably worth the 18th pick. The other one's still sort of figuring things out. You disagree with that?
Bradbury's been fine.
That's a homer talking. But I love Linderbaum. I think he's going to be a really good player. Creed Humphrey went in the 2nd round last year. I wasn't as high on him as I should have been because he's good. I think Linderbaum is better than Creed Humphrey. And again, you put him out there and he's going to go. And for a team like the Steelers who struggle so much in the interior offensive line, that just feels like a natural fit there if he's even available. Kenyon Green is a guy who I have as the 5th guy here. Played outside of Texas A&M. He's going to probably play inside of the NFL, which he did last year. And he's nasty. He plays with an edge. And he's a guy that feels like he would fit perfectly on that Chargers offensive line. They had some holes, especially on the right side. They'll have some holes in the interior offensive line. And again, the recurring theme for this draft isn't that there are no – it's that there are no sort of premier quarterbacks, in which case you need to draft these offensive linemen to protect the premier quarterbacks that are already on the roster, whether it's Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, whoever it is. And I think Kenyon Green has a chance to be a really good football player. Now, two names that aren't here that maybe you were thinking about, Brent. Trevor Penning.
Yeah.
I like him as a late round 1, early round 2. And
I think he goes easily first round.
He's going to go higher than that. I talked to a team the other day that said he's going to go higher than that. And part of that's based on need. I mean, teams overdraft quarterbacks all the time, and they overdraft offensive tackles all the time.
Like Penning's almost a lock to go ahead of Linderbaum just because of.
No, I think so. I think
more needs at the tackle position than there are at the center position.
No, I think that's fair. But again, he played FCS competition, so you have to wonder about that. He did really well in the Iowa State game. I like the dude a lot. He was a lot of fun to talk to at the combine, and you're pulling for him. Emery talked about pulling for the small school guys. I'm pulling for him to have success, but I mean, you take him 10. If you're the Jets, that's putting a lot of pressure on a dude that may not be ready for that pressure, both in terms of playing at a small school and also physically. So we'll see. I've talked to front office folks who's not sure he's a left tackle. Maybe he's better on the right side. I like his game. I just like it in the second round, not in the first.
The Penning thing is interesting too, because I think that it factors into sort of how this. So like as I mentioned, all these teams have 2 picks: the Texans, the Jets, and the Giants, right? Well. Like if you're the Jets and you take a Thibodeau or Sauce Gardner at 4,
you're back to Thibodeau. By the way, I love that.
Thibodeau, I know, right? Whatever.
Basketball season.
It's just going to be like if you were thinking about an offensive lineman with your second pick at 10, you may be in a position where you're like, oh, do we want Trevor Penning at 10? Because the other 3 guys probably not making it there, but they could go wide receiver anyway. I digress. Your thoughts on Wilson's rankings there, Emery?
I'm guessing at number 6, you probably have Zion Johnson. That's the only one that I.
I love Zion Johnson. That's right. That's close. 5 and 5.
He's interior only though. Like he's definitely.
He played left tackle for BC
in
2020, but he'll kick inside. He's only 6'2", I think, maybe 6'3". He worked at center at the Senior Bowl. And I'm with you, Emery. I love Zion Johnson.
That was the only question I had. All these are fantastic offensive linemen.
Yeah, I feel like if there's any group, the 2 groups, it's defensive line.
And by the way, quickly, sorry, Brenton, just so you know, Zion Johnson transferred from Davidson. He was an academic All-American, so he's that dude's smart too.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
didn't realize.
And that's not scholarship FCS too.
Yeah, didn't know Davidson had a football team, but
I didn't either.
My grandfather and his brother played football at Davidson way back in the day.
Do they know Steph Curry?
No, I covered Davidson and Steph Curry in college.
Okay. I broadcast a Davidson game when they played Georgetown.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I
yeah.
did. I did the UNCG Davidson game. It was fun. Twice actually. I walked in with Steph and Mrs. Curry one time. That was fun. Anyway, not Steph.
Dell.
His
dad. That's what I say.
Anywho, your guy Wilson, who you pounded the table for on this list.
Tyler Linderbaum. I basically explained why a moment ago, especially if we're talking about after pick 19.
I've heard. I think it was Lance Zierlein over on NFL.com, and I think Brandon Thorne did it too. Have comped him to Jason Kelce, excuse me. Which, I mean, Jason Kelce is probably a Hall of Fame center. And I think he came back this year. This may be his final year too. Probably his final year. Yeah.
Philly has 2 picks, and we've talked about wide receiver, and
that's why it would be interesting. The Eagles have those 2 picks there. Like, if you want Tyler Linderbaum and you want to take him at 15, you could do it, right, Emery?
I don't know if you guys saw my recent CSports.com 2022 NFL mock draft, but which is up now on the website. But I do have Philly taking Tyler Linderbaum, and the point I made was, I know people probably feel as though Dickerson is the heir apparent, but if he's balling out at guard, why not draft the best center, and leave him at guard? That way you have excellence on the interior offensive line.
By the way, I know why Emery loves Thibodeau, because no one is all about their brand more than Emery. That's why he loves.
Hey!
No, he's always. Hey, I'm not hating on him.
I'm saying you're saying that he's more about his brand than I'm about my brand.
Well, Emery actually, through the course of the conversation, works in the stuff he's doing, and you're just talking about nonsense. Like, you're talking about where you're going to go play golf.
By the way, everybody's got. I didn't like even JJ's doing a mock draft. Jonathan Jones.
Yeah, he just did his first one today.
Yeah, he has the The
Is
Seahawks
Malik-
trading up with the Panthers to take
Malik. But
Willis.
read the blurb there, which is very interesting from Malik. You got it in front of you?
I pitched this trade to a GM last week, and he said it was the only scenario available where Willis actually goes top 10. Seattle needs a quarterback. Carolina wants to trade back. Seahawks have a second rounder to give. Panthers GM Scott Fitterer came from Seattle.
So I think it's very interesting that the GM he spoke with thought this is the only way Malik goes top 10, which, that would be again one of those crazy storylines Emery was talking about because we have no idea what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I would also point out that the Seahawks could simply draft him at 9, and that would also get him into the top 10. But I mean, I digress. Or the Falcons could take him, or the Lions could take him.
All right, I don't want to get sidetracked here, but over under, how many quarterbacks go in the top 10?
I will take the under on whatever number.
1.5.
Under.
I'll take. I think the line would actually be a half, and the under.
You think the line's going to be a half on quarterbacks in the top 10? I do too, but Prisco keeps saying everyone I talk to says 2 quarterbacks are going in the top 10.
And then he doesn't mock them, or he doesn't say anybody's going to do it.
Right.
It's because people are trying to feed Pete info to get him to talk about it. He's like, I'm not getting used. I'm sick and tired of being used.
I'm with you guys.
No one uses me.
I'm with you guys.
I'm my own man.
I think only one goes. But I thought JJ's note was interesting, at least to the GM he spoke with. That
sure.
If Malik doesn't go, then no one's going.
Your buyer beware. We got to get to this.
Okay,
I don't even have this slander on this podcast. Your buyer beware is Ike Ekwonu.
And here's the only reason why. Nicky told us this at the combine. He said, "Look, man, I need to work on my pass sets. Yeah. That's it." So that's the one little. It ain't even a red mark. It's written in like pencil, with a pinkish hue.
He is an elite run blocker and
elite athlete.
Yeah,
elite
absolutely.
Run blocker.
Like, he puts dudes at the second level into the ground.
I told him, I bring it up all the time. I told him a nickname for him is Dr. Pancake.
That's right.
I love him.
And you know he's got all the syrup bottles, right?
What does it say?
Dave Doran gave out syrup bottles for pancakes.
Oh, okay. I thought
he has more than.
Oh, he didn't tell us that. I thought he
changed the.
I thought you were going to tell me he stole my idea and then
I
gave
was
me
going to
credit.
say something about a brand of syrup, but I don't want to.
Oh, you hear that, Emery? He's afraid he can't say Aunt Jemima on the
time.
time.
Did they cancel it? I don't know.
Right, like you never know, man. You never know.
2022. Who the hell knows what you could say?
That's why I'm holding off.
Just scared to wear a Masters hat. I mean,
just yeah. Just go ahead and say it, and we'll work it out on the back end.
No.
Not to hit that record button. But what I want to say about Icky,
another kind of famous syrup. I couldn't even think of anything.
Pearl Milling Company now. Yeah, exactly. I have some in my cabinet.
What kind is it?
Pearl Milling Company. That's what they call Aunt Jemima.
Oh, they changed it.
They changed
it. Yep.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
I don't know another.
It is canceled.
I don't know another syrup company like that from growing up. I don't even remember anything else.
Oh my God! On the Pearl Milling Company, this is a tangent like only this podcast can get off on. It's Pearl Milling Company, like since 1845. It's like same great taste as Aunt Jemima.
Oh, they put that on there? Yeah. Just so you know.
Take the name off.
They wrote it in small print.
No. Pearl Milling, perfectly fine. But our history, brand origins, and frequently asked questions. I wonder what is Pearl Milling Company new? Though new to store shelves, Pearl Milling Company was founded in 1888.
Will Pearl Milling syrup make me racist? Like
frequently asked question. How will I know this is still Aunt Jemima? Did Aunt Jemima change her name to Pearl Milling Company? Yes.
Oh man.
This is amazing. Are you discontinuing Aunt Jemima products? We can assure you there are no discontinuations of our products.
By the way, Emery,
you want me to put blackface on the damn syrup bottle? Fine. Here, boom.
It's like we've included a sticker of Aunt Jemima. If you feel more comfortable with her on your syrup products, please attach this to the Pearl Milling.
The funny thing is, Davis on a syrup bottle now.
The funny thing is, Emery, he was afraid to say Aunt Jemima. He just said it 25 times once he's reading
I'm reading it off the website now.
But anyway, the icky thing, what I was going to say for Dr. Pancake is that in terms of the athleticism that you're talking about, Brinson, he was state wrestling champ. And the other stat that I love is that he ran the anchor leg of the 4x100 at 285 in high school. Yeah, so the athleticism was there. But he just said, I got to work on my pass sets. The thing is, he was so athletic against ACC competition, he was destroying guys without the technique that he'll perhaps need in the NFL. But I think that's just why I mentioned him as a sleeper, especially if you're not a sleeper, but buyer beware, especially if he's the first overall pick. We talked about Trevon Walker earlier. That's a legit buyer beware, but this is just me filling out a box. I love Icky.
I'm going to spend at least 30 to 45 minutes on the Pearl Milling company's website. It's like, why is Aunt Jemima removing the image from the packaging and changing its name? It's like, we are committed to progress, which includes both removing the image of Aunt Jemima and changing our name. Aunt Jemima has existed for more than 130 years, and we acknowledge that our origins were based on a racial stereotype. Wow. I mean, wrote that down.
You know, the lawyers told him they had to say that. So
I guess so. That's crazy. I did not know about the Pearl Milling thing. Okay. Sleeper in a small school standout for you.
Rasheed Walker's my sleeper out of Penn State. My small school standout is Nick Cidel out of Fordham. He went to Fordham, right? Is that right?
Yeah, Fordham.
Yeah, Fordham. I want to make sure I didn't get that wrong.
In the Bronx.
Yeah. So Walker,
That's where Nick Costos went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So did
Fordham.
I think Stat Boy went there too.
Chase Edmonds Fordham? Is that right?
Chase Edmonds Fordham. Yep.
Yeah.
The Stat, I don't want to call him Stat Boy. What's Stat Boy's
Tony
real name?
Reale?
Yeah, did Tony Reale go there?
I don't think he goes by
I
Step.
think he did went to Fordham. Yeah, he went to Fordham too.
He went to Fordham with Spiro. What's Spiro's last name? Diaz. Yeah, I think they went to Fordham together. I couldn't remember Tony Reale's last name. I wouldn't call him Stat Boy if I could remember that. That's why, but I knew.
He did go to Fordham. Just checked.
Yeah, I think
But
he and Spiro Diaz were.
Right.
Yeah, I think he and Spiro Diaz were dudes back in the day. Anyway, enough about Fordham. I'll talk about that in a second. Rasheed Walker, insane athlete. We talk about Ike Kwani being an athlete. He is a really good athlete. He's just up and down. And I've talked to scouts that say he probably goes on day 3, but he has day 2 talent. If he can put it together, he's a guy that can be a quote unquote steal. I mean, go watch the Michigan game. He's shutting down Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo, and that's for real. And he had a couple slip-ups in the first series where he got smoked, and after that, he locked him down. So I love him there. Nick Cidel, what did the Senior Bowl? And he looked out of place. Like, he looked like one of those guys that was deer in headlights. But they played. I think they played either Wisconsin or Nebraska. I can't remember which game it was. He looked like he fit in, and he looked like he was a really good football player. He may have just been nervous or whatever. I don't know in Mobile. But again, he's a guy that sometimes the situation, especially these smaller school guys, it can be overwhelming when you're there with a bunch of 5 stars. But I think he's a good football player. We saw that during the course of the season, and he's a day 3 guy who I think can be a good contributor at the next level. May have to kick inside the guard, may play maybe he plays right tackle. I don't know, but I wanted to give him a little shout out here.
I dig it. All right. We would have kept this under an hour were it not for the 12 minutes we talked about the top of the draft, and then, of course, the syrup conversation. That
we learned something today.
I know. Very, very educational.
About you.
How dare you? I read off the website. Emery, as always, man, a pleasure. Make sure and check out at F Ball Game Plan on Twitter. Check out. I've obviously forgotten. Is it footballgameplan.com/2022 draft guide?
Correct.
I didn't forget. There we go. Check that out for an excellent draft guide from Emery. Yeah, I'm not going to promote Wilson. You see him all the time. You know where to get his stuff. Junior draft analyst at CBSSports.com. Go read his mock drafts for Emery, for Wilson. I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. We will talk to you guys later.